1. Introduction. My name is Angela, and I am 26 years old. Before I met my husband, Nick, my life was simple and predictable. I had a good job in a city office, a small but comfortable apartment, and a few close friends. I was happy enough, but I always dreamed of a bigger kind of love. I wanted a partner to share my life with, someone who would make every day feel special. One evening, I went to a friend's party, and that is where I saw him. Nick was so handsome. He had dark hair, kind blue eyes, and a smile that made me feel instantly warm and safe. He was charming and funny. When he talked to me, he made me feel like I was the only person in the room. He promised me a life full of love and adventure. I believed every word. Our romance moved very quickly. It was intense and passionate. We spent almost every day together. Nick was very romantic. He bought me flowers for no reason, took me to nice restaurants, and we talked for hours about our future. He always said he loved me. After only 3 months, he asked me to marry him. It felt like a beautiful dream, so I said yes without any hesitation. I was completely in love, and I trusted him with all my heart. Our wedding was a perfect, sunny day. I wore a long white dress and felt like a princess from a storybook. All our friends and family were there, and they all told me how lucky I was. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. They all loved Nick. On that day, standing next to my new husband, I truly believed my life was going to be a fairy tale. I had found my dream man, and our future looked so bright. I imagined the beautiful home we would live in. I thought about the children we would have and how we would grow old together, still happy and in love. Nick was my prince, and I thought our love story was perfect. I was so sure of our happiness. As I smiled for the wedding photos, I thought that nothing bad could ever happen to us. My life was finally complete. I felt safe and deeply loved. But my perfect fairy tale was not real. I was very wrong about the man I married. I was wrong about everything. 2. The sweet beginning. The first months of our marriage were wonderful. Nick made me feel like the most special person in the world. Every morning, he woke me up with a soft kiss. He always said, "Good morning, my beautiful wife." He never forgot to tell me he loved me. Sometimes he said it many times in one day. He often came home from work with a surprise for me. Sometimes it was my favorite chocolate. Other times it was a beautiful bunch of red roses. He said they were the color of our love. I put them in a vase in the living room, and their sweet smell filled our home. I felt so happy and loved. I believed every word he said. We did everything together. We loved to travel. For our honeymoon, we went to a small town by the sea. We walked on the beach every day and held hands. We watched the sunset, and it was very romantic. Nick always made me laugh. He told funny stories and made silly faces. Our home was always full of laughter. We also liked simple things. On weekends, we cooked dinner together or watched old movies. It felt like we were best friends, not just husband and wife. I trusted him with everything. He was my partner, and I thought he shared all his thoughts and feelings with me, just like I did with him. We spent many nights just talking. We sat on our small balcony, looked at the stars, and planned our whole life. Nick talked about the big house he wanted to buy for us one day. He described a garden where our children could play. He wanted 2 children, a boy and a girl. We even chose names for them. We talked about growing old together, sitting on a porch and telling stories to our grandchildren. These conversations were my favorite part of the day. They made our future feel so real and so close. I had no reason to doubt him. His eyes were always full of love when he looked at me. I gave him all of my trust. He was my whole world. My friends said I was very lucky. My family loved him too. Everyone saw how happy he made me. I felt safe with him. I thought I knew everything about him, from his favorite food to his biggest dreams. He was an open book, and I believed I had read every page. There were no secrets between us. At least, that is what I thought at the time. My heart was full, and I was sure that our perfect love story would last forever. I was living in a beautiful dream, and I never wanted to wake up. But behind his perfect smile, Nick kept secrets that I did not know about yet. 3. The first crack. Our happy days continued for a few months. I believed our life was perfect. But one night, everything changed. I was waiting for Nick to come home from work. It was late, past 11 o'clock. I called his phone, but he did not answer. I sat on the sofa and watched the clock. With every minute, I felt more worried. Finally, I heard his key in the door. I felt happy for a moment, but that feeling did not last long. Nick walked in, but he did not smile or say hello. He looked different. I stood up and went to him. "Nick, are you okay? I was so worried about you," I said. That is when I smelled the strong scent of alcohol on his clothes. I looked at his eyes. They were not warm and loving. They were cold and strange. My heart started to beat faster. "Where were you?" I asked quietly. He looked at me, and his face was dark with anger. "Why are you asking me questions?" he yelled. His voice was loud and scary. I had never heard him yell before. It felt like a knife in my heart. I took a step back from him, my hands shaking. He did not say anything else. He just walked past me and went to our bedroom. I heard the door close with a loud sound. I stood alone in the quiet hallway. The beautiful picture of our perfect marriage broke into 2 pieces. I tried to tell myself that he was just tired from work. Maybe he had a very bad day. I wanted to believe that. But deep inside me, a new feeling started to grow. It was a small, cold seed of fear. That night, I saw a different Nick for the first time. It was a side of him that scared me. I went to bed, but the space between us felt very big and cold. Our perfect world had its first crack. 4. The monster in my husband. After that first terrible night, many weeks passed. Things did not get better. In fact, they became much worse. Nick changed more and more. He was not the man I married. He became cold and quiet. We lived in the same house, but it felt like I was living with a stranger. He did not kiss me in the morning anymore. He did not ask about my day. We ate dinner in silence. The house was not full of laughter anymore. It was full of a sad, heavy quiet. I missed the old Nick very much. I missed his smile and his warm voice. This new Nick was like a person made of ice. He started to lie to me all the time. He said he was working late, but when I called his office, they said he left hours ago. Sometimes he did not come home at all. He disappeared for a whole night and came back in the morning. His clothes smelled strange, and he never told me where he was. When I asked him simple questions, he became a different person. His face got hard and his eyes turned dark. One evening I asked, "Nick, where were you last night? I was worried." He did not answer me with words. He shouted, "It is not your business." His voice was so loud it made me jump. Then he picked up a book from the table and threw it hard against the wall. I watched it fall to the floor. My heart was beating very fast. I was so scared. This was not my husband. My husband was gentle and kind. This person was full of anger. The man I loved was completely gone. In his place was this angry, cold stranger. He was a monster, and he was living in my house. I looked at him, and I did not recognize the man in front of me. Every day, I felt more afraid. I was trapped with this monster, and I did not know how to escape. 5 secrets and betrayal. One rainy Tuesday evening, Nick told me he had to work late again. His voice was cold like it always was now. But this time, something was different. I did not believe his words anymore. A terrible feeling grew inside my chest. It was a mix of deep fear and a heavy sadness. I knew I could not stay at home and wait. I needed to know the truth, even if it was a bad truth. I put on my dark coat and quietly followed him out of our house. The street was dark and wet from the rain. My heart was beating very fast, like a drum. I was so scared of what I would find at the end of his walk. He did not go toward his office building. Instead, he walked for about 15 minutes and went into a small, warm cafe on a quiet street. I stood across the road, hiding in the shadows of a big tree. I watched through the large glass window. My whole body was shaking, but it was not from the cold night air. Nick was not alone. He was sitting at a small table with another woman. She had long, dark hair, and she was laughing at something he said. I had never seen her before. He reached across the table and touched her hand gently. She smiled and did not pull away. They looked so happy and comfortable together, like they had known each other for a long time. Seeing them together felt like a sharp knife going into my heart. My world, the happy world he promised me, broke into a million tiny pieces right there on that wet street. The man who promised to love me forever was betraying me. He was living a secret, double life. All his late nights, his strange phone calls, his anger, it all made sense now. I felt so stupid and so small. I trusted him with everything I had. Tears ran down my face, mixing with the cold rain. I could not breathe properly. My beautiful dream of a happy life with him was just a terrible lie. I did not stay to watch them anymore. I could not. I ran home. My mind was empty and my heart was full of pain. I sat in the dark living room and waited for him. He came home about 2 hours later. He was smiling when he walked in. "It was a very long night at work," he said, taking off his wet coat. I stood up and looked at him. All the love I once felt for him was gone. "Where were you, Nick?" I asked. My voice was quiet, but it did not shake. He looked surprised. "I told you, Angela, I was at the office." I told him I saw him. I described the cafe and the woman with the dark hair. His face changed completely. The smile disappeared. "You are crazy," he shouted. "I was working." He denied everything, but his lies were written all over his face. I saw the fear in his eyes. He knew I had discovered his secret. 6. The painful choice. After I found out about the other woman, our house became a very sad and quiet place. The days were long and empty. The weeks slowly turned into months, and nothing got better. In fact, things got worse. Every night I cried myself to sleep. I put my head on the pillow and wished for the old Nick to return. I missed the man who brought me flowers and told me I was beautiful. I missed his laugh and his warm hands. But that man was gone forever. The man who lived with me now was a complete stranger. He was cold and angry, and his eyes were always empty. The monster I saw that first night was here to stay, and our home felt like his castle. I was just a servant living in it. Nick started to control everything in my life. He wanted to know where I was every minute of every day. If I went to the supermarket for 1 hour, he called my phone 5 or 6 times. "Where are you? Why are you taking so long? Who are you with?" he asked in an angry voice. He looked at my phone messages and read my private emails. He told me my friends were a bad influence and that I should not see them anymore. So I stopped calling my friends. I became very lonely. He even told me what clothes to wear. "That dress is too short. Go and change," he would say. He made me feel like I was a child, not his wife. He said things to make me feel stupid and small. "You can't do anything right, Angela," he often said with a mean smile. His words were like small, sharp stones. They hit me again and again until I started to believe them. My confidence was gone. I used to have dreams. I always wanted to open a small flower shop because I loved making things beautiful. When I finally told Nick about my dream one evening, he laughed loudly. A flower shop? That's a silly idea for a silly woman. You would fail in 1 week, he told me. His words crushed my dream into a million tiny pieces. I felt like I had nothing left that was just for me. A small voice inside me told me to leave. The idea was a little light in a very dark room, but I was so scared. I had no job and no money of my own. He controlled all the bank accounts. Where would I go? What would I do? Nick always told me that I needed him, that I was nothing without him. I started to believe it was true. My life was a painful choice every single day. I could stay in this misery, or I could face the scary, unknown world outside. The fear always won. I remembered the man I fell in love with, but that memory was a ghost. The love I once felt for him was now a heavy chain. It was tied around my heart, and it kept me in that cold, dark house. I was a prisoner, and my own feelings were the lock on the door. 7. My escape. One morning, the sun was bright. It came through the bedroom window. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. For a long moment, I did not recognize the woman who looked back at me. Her eyes were empty and full of a deep sadness. There were dark circles under them from many sleepless nights. Her face was thin and pale. This was not the happy Angela I used to be. This was a stranger, a ghost living in my own home. I thought about the woman I was 2 years ago before I married Nick. She smiled a lot. She had dreams. In that quiet moment, something inside me changed. I was tired of crying. I was so tired of being scared. A new feeling started in my heart. It was not the fear I knew so well. It was a small, warm feeling of strength. I knew what I had to do. I had to leave this house. I had to leave Nick. He was out for the morning like he often was. This was my only chance. My heart was beating very fast, like a drum in my chest, but my mind felt calm and clear for the first time in a long time. I moved quickly and quietly. I went to our bedroom and pulled a small suitcase from the top of the closet. My hands shook as I opened it on the bed. I did not take many things. I packed a few simple clothes, my favorite book from my mother, and the small amount of money I had hidden away. I opened the closet to get a jacket. My white wedding dress was hanging there. It looked beautiful and sad. I looked at it for 1 second, then I closed the door. I did not want to take any part of that old life with me. I only wanted a future. With the small suitcase in my hand, I walked through the silent house one last time. Every room held a memory. On a small table by the door, there was a photograph of Nick and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy. A single tear ran down my cheek, but I wiped it away. That man in the picture was not real. The real Nick was a monster. I carefully placed my house key on the table right next to the photograph. I did not need it anymore. I opened the front door and stepped outside into the cool morning air. It felt fresh on my skin. I did not look back. I started walking, and with every step I took, my heart felt a little bit lighter. The heavy chains of fear started to fall away. I did not know where I was going. I did not have a big plan. But for the first time in a very long time, I felt hope. I left the monster behind me. I was walking towards a new life, and I was taking my courage with me. I was free. 8. The happy ending I deserve. The first few weeks after I left were strange. I found a small apartment on a quiet street with green trees. It was very different from the big, empty house I shared with Nick. At night, it was so quiet. At first, I felt lonely. I sometimes remembered the good times with Nick, the man I first met. But then I remembered the angry words and the fear. The quiet in my new home was not lonely. It was peaceful. It was my safe place. I did not have much money, but I had my freedom. That was more important than anything. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I began to do the simple things that I loved. I took long walks in the local park and watched people laugh. I listened to my favorite music and danced in my living room. One day, I bought myself a beautiful bunch of yellow flowers. They made my apartment feel bright and cheerful. It was a simple thing, but it made me smile a real smile. I was learning to be happy on my own. I was finding the old Angela, the girl who was lost for so long. I decided to join an evening art class. I always loved to paint, but Nick said it was a silly hobby. In the class, I met new people. They were kind and friendly. My teacher said my paintings were full of bright colors. My new friend, Sarah, always had a nice word for me. We often had coffee after class. She listened to my stories and never judged me. For the first time in a long time, I felt respected. I learned that good people exist. I also found a new job in a small, cozy bookshop. I loved being around books and talking to the customers. With my own money, I paid my own bills. I bought my own food. I made my own decisions. I was independent and it felt wonderful. My apartment was now full of my colorful paintings. My life was full of my own choices. This was the happiness I was looking for. It was not a fairy tale with a prince. It was my real life, and it was good. My unlucky marriage was a difficult experience, but it taught me a very important lesson. I learned that love should not hurt. Real love makes you feel safe and strong. It should not make you feel small or scared. I now know what I deserve. I deserve kindness, respect, and honesty. I am not searching for love right now. I am happy being with myself, my friends, and my art, but I am open to the future. I know that one day I can find a love that is true and gentle. I am free, and I am ready for the happy ending that I will create for myself.